I think the right way of looking at what China's up to really is to see it as a process. The markets are always impatient. They want to see a big sugar high immediately, and they want to see a big bazooka kind of, response to this kind of a problem. However, as we've discovered over many years, the Chinese government takes its time. It does things in a more measured fashion, and this is a very big step in our opinion. One of the biggest problems was, as you say, the property market. What we don't want to see in China, what investors were fearing in China, is that this would become a bigger and bigger kind of debt problem. And what they've done effectively is just put a line under that. And with this enormous package, that is no longer a question mark. So I think that will take about a year or two to sort itself out and work its way through the system. But that means that all the banks that have lent into the local governments and buying these bonds, and they can be repaid. The retail investors can also be repaid, and that'll come flowing back into the system. But we see this as a crucial first step. And I think personally that there are several more steps to come, and that'll just come over the next year. And I think more patient, longer-term investors would be rewarded by looking at the bigger picture, which is a process which they've undertaken and which is going to be effective.
Yeah, I just want to flag CNH right now. I haven't mentioned that this morning, but do take note that it is at 7.19.10 or so against the US dollar. It has firmed up ever so slightly in the session, but remembering we were at about 7.14, 7.15 last week off the back of that 7.20. So it's been pretty volatile for the Chinese currency. I'm wondering, Jordan, you were talking about several steps. No doubt one of them is going to be to assess Trump's trade policy once he gets into office, feet under the desk at the White House, and we learn more about that. I mean, what sort of questions are you fielding from clients? What are you telling them about this, particularly when you look at the US and China and the threat of potential tariffs?
So the Chinese government has two issues that they've got to kind of react to, if you like. So it's the Chinese economy and the domestic consumer and what's happening there, but also with the fact that the Trump ascendancy into the presidency has occurred. And it's very telling that their meeting was on the same week as the election, as I'm sure it's been pointed out. So it'll be a bit reactionary. They will want to see what happens with the Trump administration, what kind of policies they put in place. But putting Trump aside entirely, they will have to address the fact that, as you mentioned earlier, the prices are coming down. The consumer is saving and not spending in the Chinese economy. So they need to stimulate that consumer again, and they need to put some incentives in place through a fiscal stimulus that addresses the consumer. So I think no doubt that is coming. The timing of which I think will be, without Trump, would have been next year anyway, but with Trump, and whatever tweet comes out over the next year, I think that might come sooner rather than later, and they will see how that unfolds. So they will respond, and they'll need to get the domestic demand going so that they can be more immune to whatever Trump decides to do. So yes, we expect bigger things to come in terms of fiscal stimulus.